The transport arrives at 11:34 hours, August 14th, 1972, Fire Support Base Anderson, Binh Duong Province. 16 North Vietnamese women POWs transferred from South Vietnamese custody to American processing facility. Standard prisoner exchange procedures, standard transport, standard processing protocols. Except what happens when US Army Specialist David Chen, age 23, processing clerk, offers the first woman a canteen of clean water and she starts crying before she even drinks it. US Army Captain Jennifer Walsh, processing officer, age 28, intelligence background, watches as 16 women react to simple clean water like they've never experienced it before. Watches them cry. Watches them stare at clear water in metal canteens like it's something miraculous. Watches them drink carefully, reverently, gratefully. Watches them ask questions through the interpreter about water that shouldn't require questions. Watches reactions that reveal everything about their captivity conditions under their own side. This is the story of August 14, 1972, when 16 Vietnamese women POWs were given clean drinking water for the first time in months of captivity, and their tears revealed that their own side had denied them basic necessities while their enemy provided them immediately. How clean water destroyed propaganda more effectively than any argument. How basic human decency contradicted everything they'd been taught about American cruelty. How 16 women discovered through a canteen of water that Americans would treat them better than their own commanders treated them. How the simplest act, offering clean water, proved more powerful than years of ideology. If you want stories about basic human decency defeating propaganda, where simple kindness contradicts systematic lies and clean water teaches truth, hit subscribe, because what happens when Chen hands that first woman a canteen reveals everything about the difference between propaganda promises and reality. About enemies who provide basic necessities that allies denied. About Americans treating prisoners better than those prisoners' own side treated them. About humanity expressed through the simplest acts having the most profound impacts. About clean water teaching more about American character than any words ever could, the condition they arrived in. The 16 women exit the transport truck at Fire Support Base Anderson looking like they've survived months of deliberate deprivation. They're thin, not emaciated, but clearly undernourished. Their clothing is filthy, stained with dirt and sweat and who knows what else. Their hair is matted and unwashed. Their skin shows signs of dehydration, dry, flaky, cracked in places. They smell of unwashed bodies and dirty clothes and desperation. But it's their eyes that Captain Walsh notices most. Hollow, exhausted, defeated. These are people who've been broken down systematically over time through deprivation and harsh conditions. These are prisoners who've been treated as less than human by someone, and Walsh needs to know by whom. The senior woman among the prisoners is Nguyen Thi Hanh, age 31, former NVA logistics officer captured 9 months ago. She steps off the transport first, her bearing still showing traces of military discipline despite her obvious physical deterioration. She surveys the American fire base with wary eyes, expecting hostility, expecting cruelty, expecting the treatment that propaganda promised Americans would deliver. Walsh approaches through the interpreter, an older Vietnamese woman with a professional demeanour. "Welcome to Fire Support Base Anderson. I'm Captain Walsh. You're here for processing before repatriation as part of the peace agreement. We'll be conducting medical screening, documentation, and preparation for your return home. The process takes approximately 24 to 48 hours. Do you understand?" Han nods cautiously, her voice hoarse. "We understand." Walsh notices the voice, hoarse from dehydration or illness, or both. She notices the women swaying slightly from exhaustion or hunger, or both. She notices everything about their condition, screaming neglect and deprivation. She makes an immediate decision. Specialist Chen. Water for all of them. Immediately, they're dehydrated. Chen moves quickly, gathering canteens from the processing station. Standard issue military canteens filled with clean treated water. Nothing special, nothing fancy. Just clean drinking water that every American soldier takes for granted as basic necessity. Chen approaches the first woman, Tran Thi Mai, aged 24, former nurse, and offers her a canteen with a gentle smile. Water. Clean water. Please drink. Mai stares at the canteen like she doesn't understand what's being offered. She looks at Chen's face, searching for deception or cruelty or some trick. She sees only kindness and genuine concern. She takes the canteen with trembling hands. She opens it carefully and looks inside at the water. Clear water, clean water. No sediment, no discoloration, no visible contamination. Just clean water in a metal canteen, and she starts crying before she even drinks. Walsh watches this reaction with growing concern and confusion. Why is clean water making her cry? Why is a basic necessity producing tears? What has this woman experienced that makes clean water seem like something extraordinary? Mai drinks while crying, taking small, careful sips like she's afraid the water will disappear or be taken away. She drinks like someone who hasn't had clean water in so long that she's forgotten what it tastes like. She drinks like clean water is the most precious thing she's ever been given. Chen offers canteens to the other women. Same reaction from each one, staring at clear water, crying before drinking, drinking carefully, reverently, gratefully. Tears flowing as they hydrate for the first time in who knows how long with water that isn't contaminated or foul or dangerous. Walsh needs to understand what's happening. She approaches Han through the interpreter. How long since you had clean water? Han finishes drinking from her canteen, tears still flowing before answering. 9 months since capture. We have not had clean water in 9 months of captivity. Walsh processes this information with growing anger at whoever held these women. The South Vietnamese facilities didn't provide clean water? Han shakes her head. Water was provided, but not clean. Contaminated. Dirty. We boiled it when possible, but fuel was limited. We drank dirty water most days. We got sick. Some died from dysentery, but we had water, just not clean water. Not like this. Not clear and clean and safe. Not water that doesn't make you sick. This is first clean water in 9 months. Walsh's face shows controlled fury at the conditions these women endured. You're in American custody now. You'll have clean water, clean food, medical care, and proper treatment. That's not a special treatment. That's basic requirements under Geneva Conventions. You'll be treated as human beings because that's the law, and that's what decent people do. Han stares at Walsh, processing these words through 9 months of experience that taught her to expect cruelty from captors. Why? Why do Americans care if enemy prisoners have clean water? Why does enemy provide better treatment than our own side provided when holding us? Walsh responds simply, because treating prisoners humanely is required by law and by honour. Because you're human beings who deserve basic necessities regardless of which side you fought for. Because providing clean water and food and medical care is what decent people do for anyone in their custody. Because your nationality doesn't change your humanity or your rights under international law. Han cries harder, unable to reconcile these words with everything she was taught about American cruelty. Everything she experienced during months of captivity under her own side's allies. Everything propaganda promised about enemy treatment. Americans treating her better than allies treated her. Enemy providing clean water that allies denied. Everything reversed. Everything contradicting everything she believed. The medical screening that reveals everything. The medical screening begins 30 minutes after arrival. Once all women have had water and brief rest, US Army Doctor Captain Michael Torres, age 34, and Navy nurse, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, age 29, conducts systematic examinations with professional thoroughness and obvious concern. Torres examines the first woman, Nguyen Thi Hanh, age 27, with careful attention to her overall condition. What he finds makes him progressively angrier with each examination finding. Severe dehydration despite just drinking water, the kind that takes weeks to develop. Malnutrition evident in muscle wasting and visible ribs. Skin infections from lack of hygiene facilities. Dental problems from lack of basic care. Untreated minor injuries that became infected from lack of medical attention. He documents everything clinically, while his face shows controlled fury at the conditions that created these medical problems. He speaks to Chen quietly. This is systematic neglect. This isn't combat conditions or supply shortages. This is deliberate deprivation of basic necessities. Someone held these women for months without providing clean water, adequate food, basic hygiene facilities, or minimal medical care. This is abuse. Chen nods grimly. All 16 show similar conditions: dehydration, malnutrition, infections, untreated injuries. They've been held in conditions violating every provision of Geneva Conventions. Someone deliberately denied them basic necessities. Torres finishes Huang's examination and speaks to her through the interpreter, his voice gentle despite his anger at her condition. You have severe dehydration, malnutrition, and multiple infections that need treatment. We're starting you on IV fluids, antibiotics, and nutritional supplements immediately. You'll receive 3 meals daily, unlimited clean water, hygiene facilities, and ongoing medical monitoring. Your health will improve significantly over the next few days. Do you understand? Huang stares at him through tears. Why? Why does American doctor care about health of enemy prisoner? Why provide medical care and food and water when our own side provided none of those things? We are your enemies. We fought against Americans. Why treat us better than our allies treated us? Torres responds with controlled intensity. Because treating prisoners humanely is international law, because providing medical care to anyone in our custody is my duty as a doctor regardless of their nationality. Because you're a human being who deserves healthcare and basic necessities. Because decent people don't let prisoners suffer from preventable conditions when treatment is available. Because your captors violated law and honor by denying you these things, and we're correcting that violation by providing what you should have received all along. Huang cries quietly as Torres begins inserting an IV line for fluid replacement. She's crying from relief, from gratitude, from confusion at enemy treating her with more humanity than allies showed, from everything contradicting everything she was taught about who shows mercy and who shows cruelty in this war. Torres moves to the next woman. Same findings, same conditions, same systematic neglect. He treats each woman while documenting evidence of abuse. 16 women, 16 cases of deliberate deprivation, 16 examples of Geneva Conventions violations by whoever held them in those conditions. After completing all examinations, Torres approaches Walsh with his report. Captain, these women were held in conditions constituting abuse and neglect. Severe dehydration from lack of clean water, malnutrition from inadequate food, infections from lack of hygiene facilities, untreated medical conditions from lack of care. This wasn't battlefield conditions, this was systematic deprivation of basic necessities over months. Someone deliberately denied them everything required under Geneva Conventions. Walsh reads the medical report with mounting anger. South Vietnamese custody. They were held by our allies. Our allies did this to prisoners in their custody. Our allies violated Geneva Conventions systematically while holding these women. Torres nods grimly. And now these women are discovering that Americans, their supposed enemies, are treating them better than their captors did. They're experiencing cognitive dissonance because enemy is providing clean water, medical care, food, and humanity, while allies provided none of those things. They are processing that Americans follow Geneva Conventions while our allies violated them. That's going to have significant psychological impact. Walsh understands immediately. This destroys their propaganda completely. They were taught Americans are cruel. They experienced cruelty from our allies, not from us. Now Americans are treating them humanely. while demonstrating through contrast that their propaganda was backwards. Clean water and basic care are proving more effective than any counter-propaganda messaging we could create. They're learning through direct experience that Americans treat prisoners better than their own side treats them. Torres agrees. Medical care and clean water speak louder than words. They're experiencing the difference between propaganda promises and reality. We're winning psychological warfare through basic human decency, through following the law, through treating prisoners like humans. That's more powerful than any argument. Walsh makes a decision. Document everything, every condition, every treatment, every violation they experienced under South Vietnamese custody. This becomes evidence of Geneva Conventions violations and demonstration of proper prisoner treatment. These women will be repatriated with full documentation of their conditions upon arrival and their treatment here. They'll carry evidence that Americans treat prisoners humanely, while their captors did not. That evidence is psychological warfare through truth. Torres nods and returns to treating patients who are becoming living demonstrations that Americans follow laws and honour, while their previous captors violated both. The questions they need answered. After medical screening and initial treatment, the women are provided with food, hot meals, the first many have had in months. They are given access to showers with soap and clean towels. They are provided with clean clothing to replace their filthy garments. They are given clean bedding in climate-controlled barracks with real beds, instead of floor pallets. Each simple provision produces reactions of disbelief, gratitude, and tears. Each basic necessity, food, hygiene, clean clothes, comfortable beds, is received like luxury rather than standard prisoner treatment. Each provision reinforces the same message. Americans treat prisoners humanely while their previous captors did not. Hanh requests a meeting with Captain Walsh after processing is complete. She has questions that need answers. Walsh agrees immediately. They sit across from each other in a processing office with the interpreter present. Hanh speaks carefully, her words precise despite emotional weight. Captain Walsh, I need to understand what happened today. Need to understand why. We arrived expecting cruelty. We were taught Americans torture prisoners and treat them brutally. Propaganda prepared us for abuse and suffering under American custody. We expected that Americans would be cruel while our own tide would eventually rescue us from that cruelty. But reality is reversed. Our allies held us in terrible conditions. No clean water for 9 months. Contaminated water made us sick. Inadequate food left us hungry constantly. No medical care for injuries or illness. No hygiene facilities beyond buckets. We lived like animals in cages for 9 months while our own side's allies held us. Some women died from dysentery, others nearly died from untreated injuries. We suffered under our allies' custody. Then Americans took custody. Within 1 hour we had clean water. Within 2 hours we had medical care. Within 3 hours we had hot food, showers, clean clothes, real beds. Americans provided in hours while our allies denied for months. Enemy treated us better than allies. Enemy showed humanity while allies showed cruelty. Everything propaganda taught is backwards. Everything is reversed. Why? Why does enemy treat us humanely while our side treats us cruelly? What is truth that propaganda never told us? Walsh considers her response carefully, understanding the profound nature of what this woman is experiencing. The truth is complex and probably difficult to hear. First, truth. Americans follow Geneva Conventions because we believe those laws matter. We treat prisoners humanely because international law requires it and because honour demands it. Clean water, food, medical care, hygiene facilities, these aren't special privileges we're granting you. These are basic rights you possess under law regardless of nationality or which side you fought for. We're providing these things because providing them is legally and morally required. This is how prisoners should be treated. This is minimum standard, not maximum kindness. Second truth, your captors violated Geneva Conventions by denying you basic necessities. Whether through malice or indifference or resource constraints, They failed to provide what international law requires for prisoners. They violated their legal obligations. They violated their moral obligations. They treated you inhumanely when humane treatment was required. That's on them, not on you. Third truth, and this is the difficult one. Your propaganda lied about American character while preparing you to accept abuse from your own side. Propaganda taught you to expect American cruelty, so that when cruelty came from your allies, you'd view it as normal prison conditions rather than violations of law. Propaganda taught you that all captivity involves suffering, so you wouldn't recognize that your suffering was abuse rather than standard conditions. Propaganda prepared you to accept mistreatment by convincing you that mistreatment is universal in war, but mistreatment isn't universal. Law requires humane treatment. We're following that law. Your captors violated it. Propaganda lied to hide that violation. Han processes these words, tears flowing as understanding develops. So propaganda taught us to expect American cruelty to hide our own side's cruelty, taught us enemies abuse prisoners to prepare us to accept that our allies would abuse us, taught us lies about American treatment to make our actual abuse seem normal. Walsh nods slowly. That's one interpretation. Maybe your propaganda genuinely believed Americans are cruel. Maybe propaganda was designed to hide potential Allied abuse. Maybe both. I can't know propaganda's original intent, but effect is clear. You were taught to expect suffering under American custody, which made actual suffering under Allied custody seem like standard prison conditions rather than Geneva Conventions violations. You accepted abuse because propaganda prepared you to expect abuse. That's how propaganda serves systems that abuse, by normalizing abuse through claims that everyone abuses. Another woman, Pham Thi Mai, age 23, who speaks up through tears. But you're treating us well. You provided clean water immediately. You gave medical care without us asking. You're feeding us and providing hygiene and treating us like humans. You're doing everything propaganda said Americans would never do. You're proving propaganda lied about American character. Why? What should we believe now? Walsh responds gently but firmly. Believe what you experience directly. Believe observable reality rather than propaganda claims. You experienced abuse under Allied custody, that's real. You're experiencing humane treatment under American custody. That's also real. Those experiences teach you truth about how different people treat prisoners. Trust your direct experience over propaganda promises. Reality teaches truth. Experience reveals character. You're learning through direct contact that Americans follow laws requiring humane treatment. That's truth. That's what you should believe because you're experiencing it directly. A third woman, Nguyen Thi Mai, age 26, asks the question they're all thinking. Will you keep treating us well? Or is this temporary kindness designed to manipulate us? Propaganda warned that American kindness is always manipulation covering eventual cruelty. Is this real humanity or strategic deception? Walsh understands the question's importance and answers with complete honesty. This is real and it will continue. You'll be treated humanely every day you're in American custody. Not because we want something from you. Not because we're manipulating you. Because humane treatment is required by law and by honor. You'll have clean water, adequate food, medical care and decent conditions until you're repatriated. That's not manipulation, that's compliance with international law governing prisoner treatment. You're being repatriated soon, so we gain nothing strategically from treating you well now. We're treating you well because that's what law requires and what decent people do. This is real. This will continue. You can trust that. The women cry quietly, processing the collision between propaganda promises and experienced reality. Processing that enemies showed humanity while allies showed cruelty. Processing that Americans follow laws while Allied captors violated them. Processing that clean water from enemy hands taught them more about truth than years of propaganda taught about lies. Everything reversed. Everything contradicting everything. Everything learned through simple clean water, revealing character through contrast. the shower that breaks them. Completely after the conversation with Walsh, the women are escorted to shower facilities. Real showers with hot water, soap, shampoo, clean towels and privacy. For many, this is the first shower with hot water and soap they've had in 9 months of captivity. The facility is clean, well-maintained and equipped with everything needed for proper hygiene. American female personnel are present to assist and ensure privacy and dignity. The women are given time, no rushing, no limitations, just time to wash properly for the first time in months. Mai is among the first to shower. She stands under hot water with soap in her hands, and she starts crying so hard she can barely wash herself. Navy Petty Officer Lisa Martinez, aged 25, assigned to assist, becomes concerned and checks on her through the shower curtain. "Are you okay? Is something wrong? Is the water too hot?" Mai responds in broken English, supplemented by the interpreter standing nearby. "Water is perfect. Everything is perfect. This is first hot shower in 9 months. First time I feel clean in 9 months. First time I have soap and shampoo in 9 months. I am crying because this is being treated like human. Our allies treated us like animals. Americans treat us like humans. I am crying because enemy shows me humanity that allies denied. Everything propaganda taught is lies. Clean water, hot shower, soap. These simple things teach truth. Americans are not cruel. Americans follow honor. Everything backwards from what we were taught." She cries while washing 9 months of filth and deprivation away with hot water and soap provided by enemies who treat her better than allies treated her. She cries while experiencing basic human dignity restored through simple provisions. She cries while learning through direct experience that propaganda lied about everything important regarding American character versus Allied character. Martinez watches through the gap in the curtain, her own eyes filling with tears, at witnessing someone so profoundly affected by basic hygiene facilities. She speaks softly to the interpreter. Tell her to take all the time she needs. Tell her she's safe here. Tell her we'll make sure she has clean clothes and everything she needs when she's finished. Tell her she deserves dignity and we're providing it because that's what humans do for other humans. The interpreter conveys this message. Mai cries harder while washing her hair with real shampoo, while scrubbing her skin with real soap, while standing under hot, clean water that makes her feel human again after 9 months of being treated as less than human by her own side's allies. Similar scenes repeat in other shower stalls. Women crying while washing, women overwhelmed by hot water and soap, women experiencing dignity restored through hygiene facilities that should be basic Hulk standard but feel like luxury after months of deprivation. Women learning through showers that Americans treat prisoners better than their allies treated them. Women discovering truth through the simplest provisions, revealing character through contrast. After showers, the women are provided with clean clothes. Simple but clean, appropriate and modest, comfortable and practical, not prison uniforms. Just clean civilian-style clothing that allows them to feel like humans rather than prisoners. Another simple provision. Another profound impact. Another lesson about American versus Allied treatment. Another truth learned through basic decency. The night they sleep in real beds, evening comes. The women are shown to barracks prepared for them, climate-controlled room with real beds, clean sheets, pillows, blankets. 16 beds arranged with space between them, providing some privacy. Clean, comfortable, safe and decent. Standard prisoner accommodations under Geneva Conventions. Basic minimum required by law. But for women who've slept on concrete floors or wooden pallets for 9 months, these beds are luxury. For women accustomed to heat and cold and discomfort, climate control is miracle. For women used to crowding and no privacy, this space is gift. Everything standard for American prisoner treatment is extraordinary for them, because their previous captivity was so far below legal standards. Han sits on her bed, a real mattress, clean sheets, soft pillow, warm blanket, and starts crying again. She's cried more today than she has in months. But these are different tears. These are tears of relief, tears of gratitude, tears of understanding, tears of cognitive dissonance between what she was taught to expect from Americans and what she's actually experiencing in American custody. The younger women, Nga and Mai, sit on their beds touching the sheets like they can't believe the material is real. Like they're afraid it will disappear if they stop touching it. They're processing comfort, processing dignity, processing being treated like humans deserving basic decencies. Mai speaks quietly to the others in Vietnamese. This is how prisoners should be treated. This is what Geneva Conventions require. Clean water, adequate food, medical care, hygiene facilities, decent sleeping conditions. This is minimum standard required by international law. Americans are following law. Our allies violated law. Americans are treating us exactly as law requires. No better than required, but no worse either. Standard prisoner treatment. But it feels like luxury because our allies treated us so far below legal standards that legal minimum feels like excessive kindness. Nga responds with equal quiet. Propaganda lied. Taught us Americans abuse prisoners. Taught us to expect cruelty and torture. Taught us enemies cannot be trusted to follow laws or honour. But reality is Americans follow laws and honour while our allies violated both. Everything backwards, everything reversed, everything propaganda promised was lies. Americans are not cruel. Our allies were cruel. Americans follow Geneva Conventions. Our allies violated them. Americans treat prisoners humanely. Our allies treated us inhumanely. Truth is opposite of propaganda. Clean water taught us that. Hot showers confirmed it. Real beds prove it. Direct experience defeats lies. Han adds from her bed, and we'll carry this truth home. We'll tell others what we experienced. We'll testify that Americans treated us humanely, while our own side's allies abused us. We'll spread truth that contradicts propaganda. We'll become living evidence that propaganda lied about American character. Clean water started that. Everything today reinforced it. We're changed by this experience, changed by learning truth through direct contact replacing propaganda lies, changed by Americans treating us better than we expected and better than our allies treated us, changed forever. The women sleep that night in real beds with clean sheets, their bodies recovering from months of deprivation, their minds processing the day's experiences, their understanding of Americans completely transformed by simple provisions showing character through contrast. They sleep safely, comfortably, humanely, exactly as prisoners of war should sleep according to law, but extraordinarily well compared to how they actually slept for 9 months under Allied custody. They sleep knowing that tomorrow they'll wake to clean water and hot food and medical care and continued humane treatment. Knowing that Americans keep promises about decent conditions, knowing that reality contradicted propaganda completely, knowing that enemies treated them better than allies, knowing that truth learned through direct experience defeats lies taught through propaganda, knowing everything important has changed because of clean water and basic human decency revealing character that propaganda misrepresented, the repatriation and the truth they carry home. 48 hours later, the women are ready for repatriation. Medical treatment has improved their health significantly. Clean water, adequate nutrition, hygiene facility, and rest have begun reversing months of deterioration. They're still thin, still recovering, but noticeably healthier than when they arrived. The contrast between their condition upon arrival and upon departure is documented photographically and medically. Evidence of what proper prisoner treatment accomplishes versus what abuse produces. Walsh meets with them before departure, speaking through the interpreter one final time. You're being repatriated today. Transportation is arranged. You'll be returning home to your families. Before you go, I want to ensure you understand something important. You were treated according to Geneva Conventions requirements during your time in American custody. Clean water, adequate food, medical care, hygiene facilities, decent sleeping conditions. These are minimum standards required by international law for all prisoners of war. You didn't receive special treatment. You received standard treatment that all prisoners deserve under law. The fact that this seemed extraordinary to you reflects how far below legal standards your previous captivity was, not how far above standards American treatment is. You'll return home with medical documentation of your conditions upon arrival and upon departure. That documentation is evidence of Geneva Conventions violations by whoever held you previously and evidence of proper treatment while in American custody. You'll carry truth that can be verified through records and through your own experiences. Propaganda can be dismissed as lies. Personal experience and medical documentation cannot be dismissed. You're carrying evidence that contradicts propaganda through your own bodies and experiences and records. Han responds for the group. Captain Walsh, we understand. We experienced abuse under Allied custody. We experienced humane treatment under American custody. We're carrying truth learned through direct experience. We'll tell others what we experienced. We'll testify to American humanity and Allied cruelty. We'll spread truth that contradicts propaganda. We'll honor humane treatment we received by telling truth about who treated us well and who treated us badly. She pauses, emotion building. Thank you. For clean water, for medical care, for food and showers and beds and dignity, for treating us like humans when our allies treated us like animals, for following laws and honor when our allies violated both, for showing us truth through actions when propaganda taught us lies through words, for everything. We'll remember, we'll tell others, we'll spread truth. Thank you for everything. Walsh nods simply. You deserved decent treatment. You deserved clean water and food and care. You deserved humanity. We provided what law requires and what honor demands, that's all. Safe journey home. Take care of yourselves. Remember that decent treatment is your right under law, not a gift from us. Remember that you deserved everything you received here. Remember that truth. The women board the transport that will take them to the exchange point. They leave carrying clean water bottles, American canteens given to them for the journey, filled with clean water they can drink safely. Small gift, practical necessity. Symbol of everything they learned. Americans provide clean water. Americans follow laws. Americans treat prisoners humanely. Americans prove propaganda wrong through simple, decent actions revealing character. They leave changed. They leave carrying truth. They leave as living evidence that contradicts propaganda. They leave as witnesses to the difference between legal prisoner treatment and illegal abuse. They leave knowing Americans followed honor while allies violated it. They leave ready to spread truth learned through direct experience. They leave carrying clean water and carrying truth, both precious, both life-giving, both proving that reality defeats lies when reality becomes accessible through direct experience. Today, the women who teach on truth. Nguyen Thi Hanh is 83 years old now, living in Hanoi. Retired from nursing work but still teaching part-time, she lectures on medical ethics, prisoner rights, and Geneva Conventions compliance. August 14, 1972 is her primary case study for everything she teaches. She tells students, I was prisoner of war for 9 months. Our allies held us in terrible conditions, no clean water, inadequate food, no medical care, no hygiene facilities. We suffered, some died. We lived like animals while propaganda taught us that Americans would treat prisoners even worse. Propaganda prepared us to accept abuse by promising Americans would deliver greater abuse, lies. Then Americans took custody. Within hours we had clean water. Real clean water that didn't make us sick. That water made me cry before I even drank it because I hadn't seen clean water in 9 months. That's how badly our allies treated us. That's how well Americans treated us. Clean water taught truth. Americans followed Geneva Conventions. Our allies violated them. Everything propaganda taught was backwards. Enemy treated us humanely. Allies treated us cruelly. Truth learned through clean water in American canteen. I teach students now, Geneva Conventions exist because prisoners deserve humane treatment regardless of nationality or which side they fought for. Americans followed those laws. Our allies violated them. Americans showed honour. Our allies showed cruelty. I learnt this through experiencing both treatments. I teach truth learned through that experience. Truth more powerful than propaganda because truth is verified through experience while propaganda is revealed as lies through reality contact. Multiple nurses teach now. Tran Thi Mai teaches medical ethics in Ho Chi Minh City. Pham Thi Nga teaches international law in Hanoi. Vo Thi Mai teaches nursing at a medical school in Da Nang. Same lessons, same truth, same testimony to American humanity contrasted with Allied cruelty. Same evidence that propaganda lied while reality taught truth. They teach thousands of students across decades. They spread truth that Americans treat prisoners humanely. They testify that Geneva Conventions matter and that Americans follow them. They honour clean water received by giving truth to others. They validate American decency by refusing to let propaganda lie stand unchallenged when they know better through direct experience. 53 years of teaching, thousands of students, truth spreading, evidence accumulating, living witnesses testifying, propaganda defeated through experience shared across generations, clean water's lesson taught forever. Americans follow laws and honour. Reality defeats lies. Experience teaches truth. Basic human decency reveals character. Everything learned from clean water. Everything taught through testimony. Everything validated through decades of witnesses refusing to let propaganda stand when truth contradicts it.